What happens when brand new cars meet a street circuit that punishes hesitation? What happens when half the field is still decoding their own energy systems? What happens when Melbourne, fast, bumpy, deceptive Melbourne, hosts the first race of a regulation reset? This isn't just another season opener. This is the first chapter of a technical era shift, and it's happening at the Australian Grand Prix around the semi-street roller coaster that is Albert Park Circuit, carved into the heart of Melbourne. And that matters more than people think. The 2026 cars, shaped by the new regulations from the FIA, aren't just evolutions. They're a philosophical pivot, lighter, smaller, more reliant on electrical deployment. Less drag on the straights, less brute force downforce in the corners, half combustion, half battery ballet. It's not just about grip anymore, it's about timing. And Melbourne exposes timing. Albert Park isn't Monaco tight and it isn't Monza simple. It's that awkward in-between where rhythm is everything. Medium speed direction changes, heavy braking into turn 1, that long blast down Lakeside Drive, and the high commitment sweeps through turns 9 and 10. It feels permanent, but it's still a street surface underneath. Evolving grip, painted lines, bumps that don't care about your wind tunnel numbers. So what happens when brand new energy deployment systems hit a circuit that demands confidence on entry and precision on exit? You get calculated aggression. Because here's the thing about Albert Park. Overtaking exists, especially since the layout tweaks a few seasons ago widened braking zones. But it's still momentum sensitive. If you hesitate mid-corner, if your battery deployment is mistimed by even half a second on corner exit, you're not just losing tenths, you're losing the toe all the way down to turn 3. And in this new era, energy is a currency. These cars harvest more, deploy differently. Drivers can't just push every lap without consequence. They have to think in waves. Deploy here, recharge there, attack on one lap, defend on the next. At a place like Bahrain, that's manageable. Wide runoffs, stop-start rhythm. In Melbourne, the walls creep closer. The flow is faster. There's less mental bandwidth, which means the first race isn't just about who's quickest. It's about who understands their car under stress. We've already heard whispers from several drivers, suggesting the new generation could behave differently in traffic, more sensitive, less forgiving when following closely. If that's true, Albert Park becomes a psychological exam, because this circuit tempts you. It lures you into sending it down the inside at turn 11. It invites late lunges into turn 3. But with altered aero weight characteristics and tighter energy margins, a failed move could cost you not just position, but deployment strategy for the next 5 laps. That's strategic dominoes. And then there's qualifying. Melbourne qualifying sessions are usually separated by fine margins. The track ramps up dramatically over the hour. Green at the start, grippy by Q3. With new cars and incomplete datasets, the teams that interpret track evolution best could steal front row starts before the pecking order stabilises. If a team like Mercedes has genuinely nailed the integration between chassis and power unit, Melbourne's flowing sectors reward that harmony. Smooth direction changes, stable rear under braking, clean traction out of turn 13. A well-balanced car here feels alive. But if the balance is even slightly off, Albert Park magnifies it. The rear steps out in the high-speed sweeps. The front washes wide through the final corner, and suddenly the stopwatch doesn't lie. Now think about a team like Red Bull Racing, historically strong in high-speed efficiency, brilliant at maximising aerodynamic stability. If they've adapted quickly to the reduced drag concept of 2026, Melbourne's long straights and fast kinks could still play to their strengths. But reliability is the wild card in a new engine formula. The first race of a new power unit cycle isn't about theoretical pace, it's about finishing. And Melbourne, statistically, bites early. Safety cars here aren't rare. A locked brake into turn 1, a wheel clipped on the exit curb of turn 6, a misjudged overtake into turn 11. One early caution changes everything about energy strategy. Suddenly the carefully planned deployment map resets. Battery temperatures drop. Drivers have to recalibrate it on the fly. That's where experience matters. Look at someone like George Russell, methodical, analytical, strong at adapting mid-race when variables shift. A race with fluctuating safety car windows and energy targets could suit that mindset perfectly. Or consider Lando Norris. Aggressive but intelligent in wheel-to-wheel combat. Melbourne rewards drivers who commit without overcommitting. There's a razor-thin line between decisive and desperate here. And then there's the home crowd electricity if Oscar Piastri finds himself near the front. Albert Park isn't just another stop on the calendar for him, it's pressure layered on top of technical complexity. First race, new car, national spotlight. If his team, say McLaren, starts strong under the new regs, the atmosphere alone could tilt momentum in his favour. But here's the under-discussed factor: tyre behaviour. Albert Park's surface has improved over the years, but it still offers relatively low degradation compared to traditional permanent circuits. That changes how teams approach stint length. In a normal season opener, that's manageable. In a year with new energy harvesting rules, it becomes layered. Because if tyre degradation is mild, teams might extend stints, which means longer phases of battery management without the reset of a pit stop. Longer stints equal more exposure to mistakes. Imagine chasing Charles Leclerc through the fast middle sector, knowing you have one high deployment lap available before recharge mode kicks in. Do you use it immediately, or do you wait for DRS down to turn 3? If you guess wrong, you're stuck in turbulent air, burning through energy reserves while your rival coolly recharges ahead. That's not just racing, that's chess at 300 kilometers per hour. And don't underestimate the mental fatigue. First race of the season always carries tension. New car correlations still being validated. Engineers comparing live data to simulations that might have been optimistic. Strategy teams second-guessing their own predictive models. At a track where walls aren't miles away and margins are tiny, stress compounds quickly. If someone like Lewis Hamilton thrives anywhere, it's in chaotic openers. Years of adapting to regulation changes. Years of managing unpredictable race starts. Melbourne has historically rewarded drivers who can sense when a race is about to flip. And it might flip, because here's the wild card no one can simulate perfectly: Melbourne weather. Early autumn in Australia can be stable, or it can throw curveballs. A sudden temperature drop changes battery efficiency. A light drizzle turns painted lines into ice. In a car that already demands precise energy timing, that's a recipe for unpredictability, which is exactly what a new era needs. So what should we realistically expect when the lights go out at Albert Park? Expect the first 5 laps to feel cautious. Not slow, cautious. Drivers calibrating deployment, feeling brake temperatures, testing traction on exit. But by lap 10, someone will realise they've got margin. Someone will push a little harder through turns 9 and 10, and that's when the race will truly begin. Expect at least one surprise in qualifying. A midfield team that mastered electrical deployment might sneak into Q3. A traditional frontrunner could misjudge track evolution and start 6th instead of 2nd. Expect strategy calls that look strange in the moment. An early pit stop to reset energy mapping. A late gamble on track position over fresh tyres. Because in this new technical framework, overtakes won't just be about top speed. They'll be about timed release. A driver deploying full electric boost at precisely the right meter board before turn 3 could look unstoppable, but only for that lap. Melbourne doesn't crown champions, but it reveals trends. It reveals who did their homework over winter. It reveals which simulator correlations were honest. It reveals which drivers adapted instinctively and which are still thinking instead of reacting. And above all, it will reveal whether this new era produces closer racing or more strategic spacing. That's the real story of the first race. Not just who wins, but how they win. Do they control energy flawlessly? Do they survive chaos? Do they capitalise on a safety car? Do they simply make fewer mistakes than everyone else? Because Albert Park punishes overconfidence. It punishes under-preparation. And in a season where everything feels new, that punishment could be immediate. So when the red lights illuminate above the grid in Melbourne, you're not just watching a race start, you're watching the first real answer to months of speculation, the first data point in a brand new technical equation, the first proof of concept for an era built on balance between combustion and electricity. And if history tells us anything about season openers at Albert Park, it's this: expect something unexpected. Expect one driver to look untouchable. Expect another to look lost. Expect one team to leave Australia believing they've built a title contender, and another to board the plane home, already planning upgrades. That's the beauty of Melbourne. It doesn't wait for narratives to settle, it creates them. And this year, with fresh regulations, fresh uncertainty, and a circuit that demands rhythm and nerve in equal measure, the first race won't just start a season, it will define the tone. Buckle up, because the new era doesn't ease itself in, it launches. And hey, if you enjoyed this breakdown and want more Formula One explained the easy way, hit subscribe. We'll keep making the fastest sport on earth simple, clear, and fun.